Those 7 words, spoken by a tall stranger in a flowing white robe, changed my life forever. Come with me. Trust me, they will regret this. I was sitting on the cold marble floor of Dubai International Airport, shaking, starving, completely alone, when he stopped right in front of me and looked down at the crying American girl surrounded by gold shops she couldn't afford to breathe near. But let me back up 4 hours, to the moment I realized my own mother had left me behind. I was 14 years old, standing at gate 23, watching the plane to Bangkok taxi down the runway, with my family on it and me very much not. Just me, a skinny kid in an oversized t-shirt, slowly understanding that my mother had looked at my brother, believed his lies, and walked onto that plane without a single glance back. She didn't lose me in the crowd or get confused. She left me on purpose. And 4 hours later, when police called her in Bangkok, when she found out what her golden boy had really been planning, when she discovered this wasn't about a vacation but about $600,000, her face went white as a corpse. To understand why this moment was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, you need to know just how invisible I'd been my whole life. My name is Molly Underwood. I'm 32 now, and I run a successful import-export business. But back then, at 14, I was basically the family's background character. You know how some people light up a room when they walk in? I was the opposite. I was human wallpaper, the kind of kid who could sit at the dinner table and somehow still be invisible. My mother, Patricia, worked double shifts as a hospital administrator. She'd been doing it ever since my father died when I was 6. Dad's death hit our family hard, but it hit my brother Spencer the hardest, or at least that's what my mother always believed. Spencer was 9 when we lost Dad, and from that moment on, he became the man of the house in my mother's eyes. Spencer was 3 years older than me, star quarterback, straight teeth, the kind of smile that made teachers forget he hadn't done his homework. He could do no wrong, and I mean that literally. In 17 years, I never once saw my mother blame Spencer for anything. If something broke, I did it. If money went missing, I must have taken it. If there was a conflict, I started it. I learned early that fighting back was pointless, so I became the easy one, the quiet one, the one who never complained, never demanded attention, never made waves. I thought if I was good enough, small enough, invisible enough, eventually my mother would see me. She never did. My grandmother, Nora, Dad's mother, lived in Tucson, about 2 hours from our place in Phoenix. Spencer used to stay with her during summers when Mom worked extra shifts. Grandma Nora was the only person who seemed to notice I existed. She'd send me books in the mail, call me on my birthday when Mom forgot, and tell me stories about my father when I was little. But she was getting older, and I didn't see her as much as I wished I could. The summer I turned 14, something shifted. I got accepted into an elite arts program, a big deal, full scholarship, the kind of thing that should have made my mother proud. For one brief moment, the spotlight was on me. Spencer hated it. He didn't say anything directly, but I could feel his resentment like a cold draft in the room. He started making little comments about how art programs were a waste of time, how I was probably going to embarrass the family, how the scholarship was probably a mistake. My mother didn't defend me. She just changed the subject. About a week before our vacation, something strange happened. I came home early from school, half day, teacher meetings, and I heard Spencer's voice coming from his room. His door was cracked open and he was on the phone with someone. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but his words stopped me cold. "The trust fund," he said, "and she can't find out. Once I turn 18, it's handled." I accidentally stepped on a creaky board and he came rushing out, slamming his door behind him. "Were you spying on me?" His face was red, angry. "I just got home. I wasn't—" "Stay out of my business, Molly. I mean it." He pushed past me and went downstairs. I stood there for a long moment, confused. What trust fund? What was he talking about? I didn't understand it then. I wish I had. A few days later, we left for our big family vacation. Mom had won a trip to Thailand through her workplace lottery. Some hospital raffle thing. It was our first real vacation in years, and I was genuinely excited. 2 weeks in Thailand. Beaches, temples, adventure. The flight route took us from Phoenix to Dubai for a 6-hour layover, then on to Bangkok. I packed light. 1 suitcase. Spencer brought 3. I remember making a joke to myself about it. how I'd learned not to take up space in this family, even in the luggage compartment. The flight to Dubai was long, but I didn't mind. I had a window seat and I spent most of it reading and watching movies. Spencer and Mom sat together a few rows ahead of me. Every now and then, I'd see them laughing about something, and I'd feel that familiar pang of being left out, but I pushed it down, like I always did. When we landed in Dubai, I was exhausted, but amazed. That airport was incredible, like a palace made of glass and marble. The bathroom I used had better lighting than my entire school. There were gold shops and designer stores and restaurants that looked like they belonged in a magazine. I wandered around with my mouth half open, feeling like a peasant who'd stumbled into a royal court. My fashion choices didn't help. I was wearing my favorite oversized band t-shirt, some rock group I barely listened to anymore, and jeans that were slightly too long because I'd bought them on sale. I looked exactly like what I was, a 14-year-old kid from Arizona who had no idea what she was doing. Spencer suggested we split up to explore the terminal during our layover. He said he'd take Mom to look at the Gold Souk area, and I could go check out the bookstore. I was actually happy about it. Peace was rare in my family, and I wanted to enjoy the alone time. Before I left, Spencer offered to hold my backpack. You don't want to lug that around everywhere. I'll keep it safe. My passport was in that backpack, my boarding pass, my emergency cash. $40 my grandmother had given me before the trip. I handed it to him without thinking. Why wouldn't I trust my brother? I wish I could go back to that moment. I wish I could grab that girl by the shoulders and tell her to hold onto her bag like her life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. I went to the bathroom, spent maybe 15 minutes browsing the bookstore, and then headed back to our meeting spot near Gate 23. Spencer and my mother were gone. I waited. 30 minutes, 45. I told myself they'd gotten distracted shopping, lost track of time, but a sick feeling was growing in my stomach. Finally, I found an information desk and asked about our flight to Bangkok. The woman behind the counter typed something into her computer, then looked at me with concern. That flight has already boarded, dear. It's taxiing to the runway now. No, my family is on that flight. I'm supposed to be on that flight. She checked again. Patricia Underwood, boarded. Spencer Underwood, boarded. Molly Underwood, no show. My heart stopped. My vision blurred. I think I asked her to repeat it 3 times before the words actually reached my brain. They left me. My mother and my brother got on that plane and flew to Thailand without me. And as I stood there, frozen, I had no idea that in less than 2 hours, I would discover exactly why. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I see every single comment, and it means so much to me. Thank you for your support. Now back to the story. I stood at that information desk completely frozen. The woman behind the counter was talking, asking if I was okay, if there was someone she could call, but her voice sounded like it was coming through water. Everything felt distant, unreal. My family had left me. My own mother had gotten on an airplane and flown away without her 14-year-old daughter. A security officer approached me, asked for my passport. I don't have it, I whispered. My brother has it. Your boarding pass? He has that too. The officer exchanged a look with the woman behind the counter. I could see them calculating. Unaccompanied minor, no documents, no family, no explanation. I found out later, much later, exactly what Spencer had done. When I went to the bathroom, he went straight to the gate. He told the airline staff that I was traveling with other family members on a later flight because we'd bought individual tickets, not a family package. Some deal through my mother's work lottery. There were no red flags. The gate agent just checked his name, checked my mother's name, and let them board. But before that, he'd had a conversation with my mother. He told her I'd thrown a massive tantrum in the bathroom. He said I'd been chatting online with some boy I met on the internet and was trying to find him in Dubai. He claimed I screamed at him, said I hated the family and wanted to be left alone forever. My mother, exhausted, stressed, conditioned by years of believing whatever Spencer said, took his word for it. She didn't come looking for me. She didn't ask to speak to me herself. She just nodded, tight-lipped and furious, and followed Spencer onto that plane. She thought she was teaching me a lesson about gratitude, about not being dramatic, about knowing my place. She had no idea she was leaving her daughter stranded in a foreign country because her son was a liar. But I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that I was completely alone. No passport. Spencer had taken it from my backpack. No money. My $40 of emergency cash was in the same bag. No phone. My mother had confiscated it before the trip because she wanted to limit screen time during vacation. I didn't even know my mother's phone number by heart. Like most teenagers, I relied on my contacts list. I could have told you her number started with a 6, maybe, but beyond that, nothing. An airline employee offered to try calling her for me. They pulled up her number from the booking records and dialed. It went straight to voicemail. She'd put her phone on airplane mode like a responsible passenger. The irony was not lost on me. Security kept asking questions. Where was I from? Where were my parents? Did I have any relatives in the UAE? Did I know anyone I could contact? I had no answers, just tears and panic and the growing realization that I was completely, utterly alone in one of the world's largest airports, halfway around the world from home. They brought me to a small security office while they figured out what to do with me. A kind woman gave me water and tissues, but I could see the concern on her face. I was a problem, an international incident waiting to happen. I sat in that office for what felt like hours, though it was probably only 45 minutes. My mind kept racing, circling back to the same questions. Why would Spencer do this? Why wouldn't Mom check on me herself? Why didn't anyone come looking for me? And then, unbidden, his voice echoed in my head. The trust fund, she can't find out. Once I turn 18, Spencer was turning 18 in 3 months. I didn't know anything about a trust fund. My mother never talked about my father's finances, just that we were comfortable and that she worked hard to keep us that way. But Spencer knew something. He'd been hiding something, and now he'd left me stranded in Dubai, 3 weeks before our father's estate would be accessible to him. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't sibling rivalry gone wrong. This was something bigger, and I was starting to realize exactly how much danger I was in. Eventually, security didn't have more questions for me, so they released me back into the terminal with vague instructions to wait near the main concourse while they contacted the embassy. I wandered, dazed, until I found a corner near a cafe and slid down to sit on the cold marble floor. The tears came then, hot and fast. I tried to muffle them with my hands, tried not to make a scene, but I couldn't stop. I watched families walk by, kids holding their parents' hands, laughing, safe. A little girl about 5 years old dropped her stuffed bear, and her father immediately scooped it up and handed it back to her, kissing the top of her head. Such a small gesture. Such a normal gesture. I couldn't remember the last time my mother had touched me with that kind of tenderness. Maybe Spencer was right. Maybe I was unlovable. Maybe I was just a burden, a mistake, someone the family would be better off without. My stomach growled loudly, cutting through my self-pity. I hadn't eaten in at least 8 hours. The last thing I'd had was a stale airplane croissant somewhere over Europe, and that felt like a lifetime ago. I looked around at the gleaming stores, Gucci, Prada, Chanel. The airport was dripping with luxury, and I was sitting on the floor with exactly $0.00. The irony was so sharp it almost made me laugh. Almost. I thought about what I would do if this were a movie. In a movie, the scrappy heroine would find a clever way out. She'd make friends with a security guard, or discover a secret talent, or at least have some basic survival skills to fall back on. My survival skills consisted of making microwave ramen and occasionally remembering to do my laundry. I was doomed. The minutes ticked by. I pressed my back against the cold wall and tried to disappear. I'd spent my whole life trying to be invisible in my own family. Now I wished I could be visible, just once, to someone who actually cared. And then, just when I thought I'd hit absolute rock bottom, a shadow fell over me. I looked up. A tall man stood there, maybe mid-50s, dressed in an elegant, traditional white thobe. He had a neatly trimmed gray beard and kind, dark eyes. He looked like someone important, someone who probably owned several of those fancy stores I couldn't afford to look at. But he wasn't looking at me with judgment or pity. He was looking at me with genuine concern. "Young lady," he said, his English accented but clear, "you look like someone who needs help, and I believe I know exactly how to give it." Every instinct in my body screamed danger. Stranger. foreign country, alone. This was exactly the situation my mother had warned me about my entire life. Don't talk to strangers. Don't trust anyone you don't know. The world is full of people who want to hurt you. But the thing is, my mother had just left me in an airport, so her advice didn't feel particularly reliable at the moment. The man didn't approach too close. He sat down on a bench nearby, leaving a respectful distance between us. Not too far, not too close, like he understood that I was scared and wanted to give me space. "My name is Khalid al-Rashid," he said calmly. "I work here at the airport. I am the director of guest relations." He paused, letting that sink in. "I noticed you from across the terminal. You reminded me of someone." I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. "Who?" "My daughter." His voice was soft. "She passed away 5 years ago. She was 15. She had the same expression you have right now, like she was trying very hard to be invisible and hoping no one would notice her pain." I didn't know what to say to that. The honesty of it caught me off guard. This wasn't what predators said. This was something else. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He inclined his head. "Thank you." Her name was Fatima. She had a heart condition since birth. We knew she would not live long, but that did not make losing her easier. He looked at me with those steady, kind eyes. "Now, will you tell me why you are sitting on the floor of my airport crying?" Something about the way he said, "my airport," not possessive, but protective, made me trust him. Against every warning I'd ever been given, I started talking. I told him everything. About Spencer, about the lie he told my mother, about how she believed him instantly without question, about being marked as a no-show while my family flew to Thailand without me. I told him about having no passport, no money, no phone, no way to contact anyone. I told him about the trust fund I'd overheard Spencer talking about, how I didn't understand what it meant, but I knew it was important. Khalid listened without interrupting. His expression grew more serious with each detail, but he didn't look shocked. He looked like a man who had seen many things in his long career and recognized the shape of what he was seeing now. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "What happened to you," he said slowly, "is not just cruel. It is potentially criminal. Abandoning a minor in an international airport, especially with deliberate theft of identity documents, is a serious matter under international law." My heart skipped. "Criminal?" "Very serious," he nodded. "But more importantly, you are a child who needs help, and I am going to help you." He stood up and extended his hand. "Come with me. Trust me. They will regret this." I hesitated. Every alarm bell in my head was still ringing, but something deeper, something instinctive, told me this man was safe. Maybe it was the way he talked about his daughter. Maybe it was the fact that he hadn't tried to touch me or come too close. Maybe I was just desperate. I took his hand. "First," he said as we walked, "we need to get you safe and fed. When did you last eat?" "I don't know. 8 hours? 10? He made a sound of disapproval. "That will not do. Come." Khalid walked me through corridors I didn't even know existed, staff-only areas, administrative offices, behind-the-scenes passages that connected the gleaming public terminal to a world of quiet efficiency. He explained who he was to security guards along the way, and they nodded respectfully, stepping aside. I realized that Khalid didn't personally have the authority to launch some big international investigation, but he knew exactly who to contact and how to make things happen fast. He was connected, respected, and he was on my side. We ended up in an administrative office with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. A woman named Aisha, kind-faced, maybe in her 40s, sat with me while Khalid made phone calls in the next room. "You're safe now, Habibt," Aisha said, handing me a plate of food from the staff cafeteria. Chicken, rice, vegetables, warm bread. "Whatever happened, you are safe here." I ate like I'd never seen food before. That chicken sandwich, well, it was more like a full meal than a sandwich, was the best thing I'd ever tasted. Hunger really is the best seasoning. While I ate, I could hear Khalid on the phone. His voice was calm but carried an authority that made the walls seem thinner. "This is Director Al-Rashid. I need the security footage from gates 20 through 25. Timestamp 1430 to 1600. Yes, immediately. We have a minor who was deliberately abandoned. Her documents were stolen by a family member." I stopped chewing. Deliberately abandoned. Hearing someone else say it made it real in a way it hadn't been before. My brother hadn't just left me behind, he'd planned it. An hour later, I saw the proof. Khalid's colleagues had pulled the security footage. They found the exact moment. Spencer unzipping my backpack while I walked toward the bathroom, reaching inside, removing my passport and boarding pass with a small, deliberate smile. He tucked them into his own bag, zipped it up, and walked away like nothing had happened. Then they showed me footage from the gate. Spencer whispering to my mother, her face twisting with anger. She nodded, lips pressed tight, and turned towards the jet bridge. She didn't look back. Not once. Spencer followed her, and just before he disappeared through the door, he glanced back toward the terminal. He was smiling. The footage felt like a punch to the chest. I'd known intellectually that they'd left me, but seeing it, seeing Spencer's smile, seeing my mother's complete lack of hesitation, broke something inside me. "This is very clear evidence," Khalid said, sitting down across from me. "There is no ambiguity. Your brother stole your travel documents and deliberately separated you from your family. Your mother did not verify his story. This is abandonment." I nodded, numb. "Now," he continued, "I must ask you something. You mentioned a trust fund. Your brother was concerned about money. Do you know anything about your father's estate?" I shook my head. My mom never talked about it. She just said Dad left enough for us to be comfortable. I assumed that meant like the house and stuff. Khalid was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "siblings do terrible things to protect what they believe belongs only to them. Sometimes parents leave behind more than houses and furniture. And sometimes those secrets become weapons." I thought about Spencer, about the phone call I'd overheard. "She can't find out once I turn 18. "My brother is turning 18 in 3 months," I said slowly. He was talking about a trust fund, something he could access when he turned 18. Khalid nodded. "When you return home, you should look into your father's documents, ask questions, find out what he left behind and for whom. You think this is about money?" "I think," he said gently, "that people reveal their true character when they believe no one is watching. Your brother has revealed his. The question now is what you will do with that knowledge." I didn't have an answer. I was 14, exhausted, heartbroken, and sitting in an office thousands of miles from home. What could I possibly do? But somewhere inside me, a small flame of anger was starting to burn. Not just sadness anymore, not just confusion. Anger. My father used to call me his hidden gem. I never understood what he meant. Hidden from what? Hidden from whom? Now, sitting in that airport office with Khalid's steady gaze on me, I was starting to understand. My father had seen something. He'd known somehow that I would need protection from my own family, and he'd tried, in whatever way he could, to give me that protection. I just hadn't found it yet. Khalid's phone rang. He answered, spoke rapidly in Arabic, then turned to me with a new expression on his face. "The flight to Bangkok is still in the air," he said. "They land in approximately 90 minutes. I have contacted the authorities in Thailand and the U.S. Embassy here in Dubai. When that plane lands, your mother and brother will be met by police." My stomach dropped. Police? Child abandonment is a serious crime. International child abandonment with document theft is even more serious. He paused. "You have a choice now, Molly. You can let this go. We can arrange for you to simply fly home and you can pretend this never happened. Or, he smiled just a little. Or you can watch justice happen. And trust me when I tell you, they will regret what they have done." I thought about my mother's face on that security footage, the way she didn't even hesitate, the way she didn't look back. I thought about Spencer's smile. "I want to watch," I said. Khalid picked up the phone and dialed. His voice was calm, but it carried an electricity that made the air in the room feel charged. "This is Director Al-Rashid. I need you to contact the International Police Coordination Office and the U.S. Embassy immediately. We have a confirmed case of child abandonment by an American family. The mother and brother are currently on Emirates Flight 384 to Bangkok. I want authorities waiting when that plane lands. They are not to leave the airport." He looked at me with a small, reassuring smile. "Now, young lady, let's talk about justice. Quick moment here. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and share it with someone who loves a good story about karma. Your support means the world to me and helps these stories reach more people who need them. Now back to the story. The next 90 minutes were the longest of my life. Khalid's network moved fast. Within 30 minutes of his phone calls, multiple agencies were involved in my case. Dubai Airport's authority security had documented everything with official timestamps. The U.S. Embassy in Dubai opened an emergency case file for me, a stranded American minor with stolen documents. Thai authorities were notified and began coordinating with police at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport. Emirates Airlines received an alert about the situation aboard Flight 384. Everything was being recorded. Security footage, witness statements, timeline reconstruction, a paper trail that would be impossible to deny or explain away. An embassy official, a woman named Ms. Patterson, with a no-nonsense voice and kind eyes, called to speak with me directly. She explained what my mother was facing. Abandoning a minor in a foreign country is a serious international incident, she said. Your mother could face investigation in both the UAE and Thailand. Your brother, though still a minor at 17, is close enough to 18 that his actions will be scrutinized very seriously. Depending on Arizona juvenile law, he could face charges related to document theft and child endangerment. I listened in a daze. Charges, investigation, international incident. These were words from courtroom dramas, not my actual life. The evidence is